Hey guys. So yesterday somebody was talking to me about reincarnation, and we were discussing whether, well, I basically like to think that I'm quite scientific in my views, and I was saying to the person, I don't really hold reincarnation as a solid belief or anything for myself because I can't scientifically prove it. I was just thinking about it, what the real nature of reincarnation or rebirth in Buddhism is. Because I think you can take it down to a metaphysical level. And I think when you do bring it down to that level, it's not actually that crazy a belief. I know this sounds weird, but if you take the unmanifested world, so the world as we perceive it right now is the manifested world, and we have things and objects and names. I think that might be called what's name and form. What's called name and form in Buddhism. So we're not directly experiencing the world. We're experiencing the world of name and forms and objects and related concepts. So, but the Buddha talks about the unmanifested, unborn world as being, here's where it gets a little bit shaky for me, the sort of true reality. I think underlying this world of specific manifested objects and so on. So underlying, I think what I believe is that this, again, my beliefs may stray from Buddhism into other philosophies, Eastern philosophies and things, so I'm often not sure really which these sort of conceptions fall under, whether these are Buddhist beliefs or not, but so underlying the manifested world is obviously the unmanifested world, and this play of existence that we experience day to day is actually just an expression of that underlying unmanifested nature. So it may appear as though we're going to work or we're thinking, but actually it's just the one thing which exists, which is that underlying unmanifested, unborn, there's no word for it, that energy or that field. And of course the reason that there's no word for it is because words are, again, part of the manifested world. I mean, if there's only one thing that exists, you don't really need a word for it. Do you know what I mean? Even existence, the concept of existence doesn't really apply. Like the Buddha said in some of the scriptures, someone's asking him about the nature of something or other, and he says, does it exist, does it not exist, or does it both exist and not exist? And I believe he said, with regards to this, existing does not apply. With regards to this, not existing does not apply. With regards to this, not existing, both not existing and existing do not apply. So the concept of existence and the concept of one are not relevant to this underlying, unborn, unmanifested, whatever it is. So, anyway, I suppose when it comes to reincarnation or rebirth, if you consider yourself to be not actually, a person or a human, which, of course, on one level we're people or we're human, and, I consider myself to be such, but only on a superficial, manifested level, in this current appearance, this current, delusion or dream sounds like very negative or sort of biased or a kind of sticky way to look at it, because it's quite there's quite a lot of meaning packed in there. But this existence right now, which is a current sort of an appearance, I would call it, of unmanifested nature. It's and it's consistent enough that we believe it to be a life, and we believe that there's all these things going on, and we've got our taxes and our kids, and we're wearing our clothes, and we go to work every day, or we do our practice, or we do anything at all, or anything happens, that appears to be our life, and it is on that level. Anyway, underlying that is the unmanifested, which I've talked about, obviously. So, what is rebirth? If you think about life as the manifested day-to-day experience this appearance which is sort of happening to us, then rebirth seems like quite a dramatic concept. It's like all this sort of disappears, this current life, as we call it, and into maybe another one. But when you go to the level of the unmanifested, underlying, unifying, whatever, it's not so dramatic a concept to think of rebirth. And I'll tell you why, because the thing that's dramatic, or that actually is quite surprising, is that we're alive in this current form. And I think the only thing that we can actually be sure about is that is this unmanifested level. Everything that's manifested is subject to change, and we know this, but I think we forget this from time to time. The very fact that we're alive indicates that it won't always be that way. The very fact that we experience thoughts and emotions and day-to-day happenings is proof of transience, I think, or at least that's what it appears to me when I look into these things. Not very clearly explaining my point here, but I hope it's somewhat you understand what I mean, or what I'm trying to say. So, when you get down to the unmanifested level, nothing happens. Actually, rebirth doesn't happen on the unmanifested level, but something arising as life right now. What's so special about life? What's to say the unmanifested would not manifest itself temporarily in a different form? I think we assume that life is the standard, or this life, this current sort of way of being, because that's what we know. But that's just us being sort of led along on this sort of sleepwalking, this sort of dreamy way. We're being intoxicated by our own experience and our own existence. I don't mean intoxicated in a negative way. I just mean it's like being, like being kind of drunk on it and falling into sleep, in like in the was it the Jungle Book, when the snake hypnotizes people and things. But it's really not a negative thing. I don't mean that. It's just that whenever we experience something, it strengthens our beliefs and our concepts. And the concept that we are alive and living and we're human and all this is one of the strongest concepts, because it's the most base concept that it's our most base experience and most constant experience, so it's reinforced daily from birth. So it's no wonder that we believe it so strongly, but that doesn't mean it's true. And again, it's true on this level, but if you're looking at other levels, sort of, you say like metaphysical level, or the level that's beyond life, and that's why people start to look at these things when they come into touch with the idea of the end of life or mortality and things, is because if a loved one dies or something, sometimes people sort of, it can ignite a sort of spiritual beginning for them, and it's because all this makes sense in this current idea of life. But when you start to think about, because it's reinforced daily by our sort of, we live as humans, our experience, but when you start to think, oh right, but what about apart from that? What about things other than life? So think, oh yeah, there might, maybe life's not all there is to it, sort of thing. The human life that we experience now. I'm not talking about anything extra, some sort of spiritual sort of thing or experience, or adding on some other concept. I'm talking about what could possibly be underneath life, and it's there the whole time. It's just that we don't think about it very often, I think, because it's a bit of a strange thing to think about, especially when you're so caught up in life. Because we live, that's what we do. So to think, alright, but what's underneath life, what's really going on, sort of thing, is a bit of a strange concept for that reason. But yeah, when you get to the end of life, you can think. That's why I think it ignites in people a bit of curiosity about what the nature of life is, because they can see, oh, it's transient, sort of thing. And if it ends, it kind of begs the question, is there something else? Or not really, it doesn't necessarily beg the question, is there something else, but it begs the question, that it's not everything. Or if it ends, then what was the container of it? Like the universe, if you get to the edge of the universe, what's outside? Or maybe going on a bit too far here. Anyway, those were my thoughts on reincarnation and rebirth. Perhaps when you get down to the unmanifested level, it's not really such a dramatic idea. Just thought I'd share that with you. Okay, take care everyone. Have a nice day.